Welcome to my relatively infrequent Juan's World video for a Friday. I've been really quite busy with a number of other things, including writing projects. I've now got 2 books under contract, 2 close to it, and I'm writing a 5th with my son. So that's been kind of taking my attention away from other things. And I've also reinstituted my blog called Book of Days Tales, which I had up for 6 years actively, and then another 3 just kind of sitting there. And then my server just decided to do some really ridiculous things, including sending me my annual bill to the wrong address, and then when I didn't pay the bill, canceling, and so on and so forth, and whatever. So I gave that up. I said, all right, 6 years hard work, day in, day out, all gone. That's the way it goes. This is very important not to lament these things too much. Now I'm deciding that, okay, I've got a little bit of time on my hands, I'll maybe do a video, particularly because I was thinking about writing. Because somebody somewhere, I don't know, a YouTube video or a friend or something like that, mentioned writer's block. And I thought, now there's a video topic, writer's block. So let's get into it. Well, we have to back up a little bit before I get into my somewhat contentious ideas about writer's block, and just make the point that there's different kinds of writing. You can write a novel, write a short story, write an investigative journalist piece, a thank you letter, or what I do, academic work. And they're all different kinds of writing. And so if you're stuck for something to say, well, then part of it depends on what it is you're trying to say. If you're trying to write a thank you note to an auntie who sent you a gift you don't really like, then you might have something akin to what people want to call writer's block. That is, you don't know what to write. Well, that, in, I guess, the most vague sense, is writer's block. I don't know what to write. Well, why don't you know what to write to your auntie? That's because you're not very good at being diplomatic. This is a problem with a lot of people. I mean, I would even venture to say, based on my experience as a lecturer and professor who had to grade essays for years and years and years, a lot of people are not very good at writing. And I'm not really sure why. Because from a very early age, I was required to write. In primary school in Australia, I had to write an essay every week. By the time I got to secondary school in Australia, I was writing maybe, I don't know, 2-3 essays a week, and that was the norm in grammar school in England. in English class, for example, I had to write an essay a week, at least, sometimes two. And then I have to write an essay for geography, for history, even sometimes for chemistry and physics. So I was well used to it. And then when I got to Oxford, I had to write a long academic essay every week. When I say long, my tutors required me to read my essays out loud to them, and they listened and then commented. And the essay had to be, when you read it, a minimum of 20 minutes long, possibly longer, but certainly no shorter. Well, that's gonna run you around, I don't know, 8, 9 double-spaced pages every single week, except in my final year when I was writing 3 essays every 2 weeks. And so I've had a lot of experience writing, more than most probably. I imagine that people who grew up in the United States didn't have to write that many essays, and even people in England would quit after age 16. You know, I'm just a glutton for punishment or something, I guess. But anyway, I've been writing for a very long time, and I don't find it problematic to you know, if I've got an idea, I generally know how to write about it. But I do realize that there are tons and tons and tons of people who, when they've got an idea, don't know how to put it down on paper, which is why there are apps available for people to help them with their writing. And I know from having read, I can't even begin to think how many thousands of essays I've written that are what we call word salads. They're just like strung together because they don't know how to write. Well, here's what I want to tell you. It's not just about writing. It's about thinking. And that's how I would characterize writer's block. Is it's not writer's block, it's thinker's block. Right? You don't have an idea. Now when it's fiction, that's a whole different kettle of fish. And I've never actually written any fiction except for my O-level exams when I was in England when I was 16. We had to write a fictional essay or a semi-fictional essay, and I was no good at it. I mean, I think I probably could get better, but it's not what I do. But let's imagine I'm a short story writer, and let's say I'm in the vein of Asimov. I want to write a series of short stories about robots. Well, I don't know. Or time travel, or recently I've been thinking about writing a children's book on being an anthropologist. Don't have any great ideas. That's not writer's block, it's thinker's block. Like, I lack imagination, I lack creativity. I have to do something. I don't know what I would have to do. You know, maybe read some science fiction and get some idea. I don't know. But that's a whole different kettle of fish from academic writing. So I used to have students come to me, not very often, because they knew better after a while. But you know, they would come to me and they'd say, because I'd set them a term paper. Let's say my subject was the anthropology of Southeast Asia, and I'd say, okay, I want you to write a 5-page essay on some research topic, on something connected with Southeast Asia that you want to write about. And you know, somewhere along the line, maybe a student would come to me and say, I have writer's block. I'd say, no, you don't. You just don't have any ideas. That's not writer's block. That's thinker's block. And we try to brainstorm it. You know, like what what interests you. Is it art? Is it travel? Is it, what is it? And let's see if we can formulate it. And more often than not, what you need to do is go off and read things. Get some ideas, which is another whole area which I used to chide my students about, which is that a great many people, when they have to read something for college, do not read it critically. They just read it. Say, okay, this book says this, and this. Write it down. This, and this. Oh, this book says that. And that's it. They don't stop and say, well, is this true? Or has this person proven their point, or whatever? They just read uncritically, as if either everything is true or everything is meaningless, and it doesn't really matter whether it's true or not. I'm just going to learn it and spit it back and then forget about it, in a kind of Calvin and Hobbes fashion. Whereas what you should be doing in college is you should be assessing the value of different arguments. And so one of the ways that you can create an essay topic is to read a few books in the general area of what you're interested in. Let's say Vietnamese music. Maybe that is something that interests you. So get a couple of books on Vietnamese music and read them. What questions come to mind when you read the books? What things do you challenge? What things do you want to know more about? Okay, that's where your essay starts. So it's not writer's block, it's thinker's block. And on a more general level, my point, I guess, is that a great many people in the world today have thinker's block. Or let me put it more simply, they just don't think. They watch the news and accept what's given to them uncritically. They don't try to check the facts that somebody has presented. They maybe hear two different points of view, and they just say, okay, yes, there's two different points of view. They don't assess them and say, well, this one is not true, this one is true, or this one's partially true, this one's partially true, or whatever. They don't do any of that. That used to be my job in university, was to try to help people to learn how to think. And I'm very much inclined to agree with Oscar Wilde that it's one of those things that is very valuable to learn, but it can't be taught. You have to do it for yourself. You have to have the desire. So I guess the other thing I would say about writer's block is that it's not writer's block, it's desire block. I mean, and this is so much easier to analyze in terms of college students. No, you don't have writer's block. You don't want to do it. That's all there is to it. You have no motivation. If you had motivation, you would do it. Now, how do you get motivation? That's a different story. That's a story for another time. So meanwhile, if you like my videos, even though they're infrequent, please like, please subscribe, and I don't know when I'll be back. I might be back with a recipe. You never know, because I did have a little go at making ginger beer the other day. Not very successfully. So I might be back. But meanwhile, have a great weekend.